The rancher saved her from a ruthless gang, and the Apache woman declared, "You're my husband now." The sun was high in the sky, casting a golden light over the rolling hills and dry plains of the frontier. The wind carried the scent of sagebrush and the faint sound of cattle lowing in the distance. Maria, an Apache woman with sharp eyes and a quiet strength, rode her horse along a narrow trail that cut through the open land. She had been traveling for days, moving between settlements, trying to find a safe place to rest. Her people had taught her how to survive in the wild, and she was careful, always alert to the dangers that could appear without warning. As she rode, she thought about the small village she had left behind. The memory of her family and her home filled her with a mix of longing and determination. She had left not because she wanted to, but because life had grown too dangerous. Rumors of bands of outlaws traveling through the area had reached her ears, and she knew that staying put could mean trouble. Maria trusted her instincts and had learned to read the signs of the land, the tracks of animals, the shadow of clouds, the distant sound of hooves. Her horse, a sleek bay mare, moved steadily, its hooves raising small clouds of dust with each step. Maria ran her hand along its mane, whispering softly to keep it calm. She had named her horse Shadow, for the way it moved silently over the land, always seeming to know where to go. They had been companions for years, and Maria trusted Shadow as much as she trusted herself. Suddenly, a rustling noise came from the bushes to her right. Maria froze, her hand instinctively reaching for the small knife strapped to her belt. The rustling grew louder, and she could hear voices, rough and gruff, carried by the wind. Her heart began to race, but she forced herself to stay calm. Maria had faced danger before, and she knew that panicking could make things worse. She scanned the area carefully, noting the shapes of the rocks and the shadows of the trees. Before she could react further, a group of men emerged from behind the rocks. There were 5 of them, their faces hidden under wide-brimmed hats, and they carried long, dangerous-looking weapons. Maria immediately recognized them as members of a gang that had been causing trouble in the region. They were known for their cruelty and greed, and anyone caught by them could expect to lose more than just their possessions. "Hey there, pretty lady," one of them called out, his voice harsh and mocking. "Where do you think you're going, all alone?" Maria tightened her grip on the reins. "I'm just passing through," she said firmly, keeping her tone steady. She knew that showing fear could make the men more aggressive. "I don't want trouble," the men laughed, a sound that was low and dangerous. "Trouble finds everyone eventually," another said. "You look like you're carrying something valuable. Hand it over, and maybe we'll let you go." Maria's mind raced. She had no money to give, nothing that could satisfy these men except her pride and her will to survive. She knew that resisting them directly could be dangerous. She needed a way to escape, but the trail was narrow and the men had blocked her path. She could feel Shadow tense beneath her, sensing the threat as well. Just as the gang advanced, a sharp whistle echoed across the plains. Maria's head snapped up and she saw a figure approaching from the distance. It was a man on horseback, riding with speed and confidence. His wide-brimmed hat pulled low over his eyes. His horse was strong and well-trained, moving with purpose and determination. Maria felt a flicker of hope. The man reached the group just as one of the gang members raised his weapon. With a swift motion, the rider swung a long rope, expertly using it to knock the weapon from the man's hands. The gang was taken by surprise, and chaos erupted. The man's voice was calm but commanding. "Leave her alone." Now, Maria watched in awe as the rider faced the gang with courage and skill. The men hesitated, unsure if they wanted to challenge someone so confident and capable. The rider's movements were precise and practiced, showing that he was no ordinary traveler. In moments, the gang realized they were outmatched. They exchanged worried glances and began to retreat, disappearing into the hills as quickly as they had come. The man rode over to Maria, slowing down as he approached. He dismounted gracefully and extended a hand to help her down from Shadow. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice calm and reassuring. Maria nodded, still catching her breath. I think so. Thank you. You saved my life." The man smiled slightly, brushing dust from his coat. "No need to thank me. Out here, everyone has to look out for each other. I'm James, by the way. James Carter. I own the ranch just over that ridge." Maria studied him carefully. He was tall and strong, with weathered features that told of years spent working the land. There was a quiet confidence about him, a sense of fairness and honor. She felt an unexpected sense of safety in his presence. "I'm Maria," she said. I don't know what I would have done without you." James nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. "You were lucky I came along when I did. That gang doesn't play fair. You'd be in real trouble if they caught you alone." Maria looked down at Shadow, who had relaxed slightly, but still kept one ear pointed toward the retreating men. "I've faced danger before," she admitted. "But not like this. I've always had to rely on myself. It's strange, having someone come to help." James gave a small chuckle. "Out here, sometimes it takes a little help. Doesn't mean you're weak. Just means you know when to trust someone." Maria studied him for a moment, sensing honesty in his words. She had learned the hard way that trust was something earned, not freely given. Yet something about James made her feel that it was safe to believe in him, at least for now. "Come with me," James said, pointing toward the ridge. "My ranch isn't far. You can rest, get something to eat, and decide what you want to do next. It's safer there than on this trail." Maria hesitated. She had traveled alone for so long that the idea of relying on someone else felt both comforting and strange. But the fear of being attacked again outweighed her hesitation. She nodded and followed him, leading Shadow alongside James's horse. As they rode together toward the ranch, the wind carried a sense of calm and possibility. The plains stretched out around them, vast and open. But now, Maria didn't feel quite so alone. She had faced danger and survived, and she had met someone who had saved her life without expecting anything in return. James glanced at her and offered a reassuring smile. "You'll be safe at the ranch. We'll figure out the rest later." Maria nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time since leaving her village, she allowed herself to hope that perhaps, just perhaps, she might find a place where she belonged, even in a world so wild and unpredictable. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the plains in shades of orange and gold. The ranch appeared over the next hill, a cluster of sturdy wooden buildings surrounded by fences and grazing cattle. Smoke rose from a chimney, signaling warmth and life inside. Maria felt a flicker of relief and curiosity. She had survived the attack, and now she would discover what awaited her at the ranch. James guided her toward the main house, and as they approached, Maria realized that her journey was far from over. But for the first time, she felt she was no longer entirely alone. Maria stepped off Shadow carefully, feeling the firm ground of the ranch under her boots. The warmth from the house and the smell of fresh bread baking drifted to her, a comfort she hadn't known in many days. James guided her past the grazing cattle and wooden fences, speaking in a calm, steady voice. "You'll want to wash up and eat something first. Then we can talk. Don't worry, you're safe here." Maria looked around. The ranch was bigger than she expected. Ah! The wooden buildings were sturdy and well kept, with smoke curling from chimneys and tools neatly arranged. It was clear James took pride in his home. There was a quiet order to the place, a contrast to the wild land she had been traveling through. The thought of staying here, even for a short while, made her feel both nervous and hopeful. James led her into a small room with a wash basin and a neatly made bed. "You can rest here," he said. "I'll get some food ready for you. Take a moment if you need it." Maria nodded, grateful for the privacy. She washed her hands and face, letting the cool water soothe her. As she looked into the mirror, she saw the dirt and dust of travel still clinging to her skin, but she also saw determination and strength. She reminded herself that the attack had shaken her, but it had not broken her. She had survived because of her skills and instincts, and because of James. When she returned to the main room, James had a simple meal laid out: bread, cheese, and fresh fruit. He gestured to the seat beside him. "Eat, Fi. You'll need your strength," he said. Maria sat and took a small bite, savoring the flavors she hadn't enjoyed in days. She looked at James carefully, noticing how he moved with quiet confidence, how his eyes scanned the room even while speaking to her. "How did you know I was in trouble?" she asked. James shrugged lightly. "I heard the commotion. Out here, you learn to pay attention. You also learn to help when you can. No one should be left alone in the wild." Maria studied him, sensing the honesty in his voice. She had met few people like James, people who acted without expecting anything in return. I've always been on my own," she admitted. "It's strange having someone help me." James nodded, understanding. "You're not weak for needing help. Everyone needs it sometimes. What matters is that you know when to accept it." Maria felt a warmth in her chest. She had traveled for so long, relying only on herself, that she had almost forgotten what it meant to trust someone. James's calm presence made it easier than she expected. After the meal, James suggested they take a walk around the ranch. The afternoon sun was soft, and the wind carried the scent of grass and animals. As they walked, James explained how the ranch worked: the livestock, the crops, and the responsibilities that came with keeping the land running. Maria listened intently, curious about this life that was so different from her own, yet connected by the land they both respected. "You've been through a lot," James said gently. "It's not easy surviving out here alone." Maria nodded. "My people taught me how to live in the wild, how to track and hunt and stay safe. But even with all that, I couldn't have managed against that gang." She paused, glancing at him. I don't know how to thank you properly." James smiled lightly. "You don't need to. Seeing you safe is enough." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Maria watched the horses grazing, the way the wind moved through the tall grass, and felt a sense of calm she hadn't felt in a long time. She realized that this ranch, this place, was different. It was safe, orderly, and strong, but it also had room for kindness and trust, something she hadn't experienced much on her travels. James noticed her watching the horses. "They respond to calm energy," he explained. "You've got it in you, even after everything you've been through." Maria smiled faintly. "I've had to stay alert. It's part of survival. But maybe I can learn to relax a little here." James nodded. "It takes time. You don't have to do it all at once." As the sun began to dip lower, painting the sky in orange and pink hues, James led Maria to a small stable. He showed her how he cared for the horses, brushed them, and prepared their feed. Maria helped, enjoying the quiet rhythm of work. She felt a sense of belonging in these simple tasks, a connection to the land and to the man who had saved her life. During the evening, they returned to the house. James brought out a small lantern, lighting the room with a warm glow. Maria settled near the fire, watching the flames flicker. James joined her, and for a while they spoke of ordinary things: the weather, the work on the ranch, the patterns of the land. Maria found herself opening up slowly. She told him about her travels, the skills she had learned from her people, and the challenges she had faced alone. James listened without judgment, asking questions that showed genuine interest. Maria realized she hadn't spoken to anyone this way in a long time. She felt understood, not judged, and it was a relief she hadn't expected. "You're stronger than most," James said finally, after she told him about her survival skills. "Not just in skill, but in heart. You keep going, even when things are hard." Maria looked at him, surprised by his words. She had always thought of her strength as survival, as necessity. But to hear someone recognize it as courage and determination, it stirred something deep inside her. The night grew quiet outside. The sounds of the ranch settled into a gentle rhythm: the lowing of cattle, the soft rustle of wind through the trees, the distant howl of a coyote. Maria felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She realized that she could rest here, at least for the night, without fear of being attacked. James noticed her thoughtful expression. "Get some sleep," he said kindly. "Tomorrow is a new day. We'll figure out what comes next together." Maria nodded, feeling a quiet gratitude. She climbed into the bed in her small room, and Shadow rested nearby in the stable, calm and content. For the first time in many days, she allowed herself to feel safe. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, about the danger she had faced, and about the man who had saved her life. As she drifted to sleep, she realized that life on the frontier was unpredictable and often dangerous, but it could also bring unexpected kindness and connection. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time she felt a sense of hope. She had survived the attack, found refuge, and discovered a person she could trust. It was a small beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. And as the moon rose over the hills, casting a silver light over the ranch, Maria knew that her journey was not over, but she no longer had to face it entirely alone. The morning sun spilled over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the ranch. Maria woke to the soft sounds of Shadow pawing at the stable floor and the low hum of birds greeting the day. She stretched, feeling a strange mix of peace and unease. Life at the ranch had been calm, almost comforting, but she knew the dangers of the frontier never stayed far away. James was already outside, checking the fences and feeding the cattle. He noticed Maria emerging from the house and waved. "Morning," he called. "Hope you slept well." Maria nodded. "Better than I have in days. Thank you again for everything, James." James smiled. "You're welcome. But it's not over yet. That gang, they won't give up easily. You'll need to be ready." Maria's eyes narrowed. "I thought they ran away. Do you think they'll come back?" James shook his head slowly. "I don't know. Outlaws like that rarely leave a grudge behind. We have to be careful and prepare for anything." Maria felt a surge of determination. She had faced danger before, and now she wasn't alone. "Then we'll be ready," she said firmly. After breakfast, James decided it was time to teach Maria some ways to defend herself on the ranch. They started with basic drills: how to move quietly, how to hold a rope for defense, and how to stay aware of their surroundings. Maria learned quickly, her agility and sharp mind allowing her to pick up techniques with ease. She impressed James not only with her speed but also with her keen intuition, which seemed to anticipate situations before they happened. "You're a natural," James said after she successfully completed a complex maneuver. "Most people take weeks to get this right." Maria smiled faintly. "I've had to survive on my own for a long time. I've learned to pay attention." James nodded. "That will serve you well. But remember, out here, survival isn't just about skill. It's also about thinking ahead, using your mind as well as your strength." They spent the morning practicing near the edge of the ranch, the wide open plains stretching before them. The sun climbed higher, warming the land and casting long shadows across the fences. Maria felt a sense of focus she hadn't experienced in a while. Each movement was deliberate, each decision important. She realized that learning from James wasn't just about defense, it was about trust and teamwork. By midday, they took a break under the shade of a large oak tree. Maria watched James carefully as he untied his horse and handed it some feed. She admired the way he moved, calm and confident, yet always aware of what was happening around him. It made her feel safer just to be near him. "You've taught me a lot already," Maria said, breaking the silence. "I didn't think I could learn so quickly." "Thank you," James shrugged. "You had the skill already. I'm just showing you how to use it with someone else by your side. Out here, you can't always do everything alone." Maria nodded thoughtfully. She realized that she had always been self-reliant, but being alone didn't mean she had to face everything by herself. With James, she felt a new kind of strength, one that came from partnership, not just survival. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by a distant sound that made both of them tense. The low rumble of hooves approached quickly across the plains. James immediately motioned for Maria to stay calm. "Get behind the fence," he instructed, his voice steady but urgent. Maria moved quickly, heart racing, and watched as a group of men appeared over the ridge. Her stomach sank. It was the gang, returning, as James had feared. There were more of them than before, and they looked angry and determined. James stepped forward, positioning himself between Maria and the threat. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. "We'll handle this." Maria felt fear, but it was mixed with a sense of resolve. She had survived attacks before, and now she was not alone. She stayed close to James, ready to act if needed. The gang slowed as they approached, eyeing the ranch and its defenders. One of the men shouted, "Thought we'd have a little fun last time." Time to finish it. James raised his hands calmly. "It won't harm anyone here. Leave now and you'll walk away." The gang laughed, but James' calm confidence made them hesitate. He was not just strong, he was smart, reading their movements, predicting their next step. Maria realized that his strength was more than physical. It was a quiet courage that inspired respect and fear at the same time. As the gang began to advance, James and Maria worked together seamlessly. He directed her to move behind the fences, using the ranch's natural layout for defense. Maria felt a rush of adrenaline as she followed his instructions, using the skills she had learned that morning. She moved quickly, alert to every sound, every shadow. The gang tried to surround them, but James had anticipated their moves. He used ropes and clever positioning to keep them off balance, while Maria used her agility and sharp instincts to respond to sudden threats. Together, they created a barrier the gang could not easily breach. One of the men lunged forward, but Maria sidestepped and tripped him with a rope she had quickly tied across the path. He fell hard, cursing, while James used the opportunity to push another attacker back. The fight was intense, but controlled, each move precise. Maria felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. She realized that survival was not just about strength, it was about courage, focus, and teamwork. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the gang began to retreat. James and Maria held their positions until the last of them disappeared over the ridge. The threat was gone, for now. Maria breathed heavily, adrenaline still pumping through her veins. "We did it," she said, her voice shaky but proud. James nodded, his own expression serious but relieved.
"We did, but we can't let our guard down."
"They may come back. We need to be ready." Maria looked at him, feeling a surge of gratitude and respect. He had not only saved her life before, but had also trusted her to act with him. She realized that this partnership, built in the heat of danger, was something rare and precious. After the gang was gone, James suggested they repair the fences and check the ranch for any damage. Maria worked alongside him, feeling a sense of purpose. Every task they completed together strengthened their bond. She admired his leadership and calm decision-making, while he appreciated her courage, intelligence, and resilience. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the ranch, they stood together on a small hill, looking out over the land they had protected. The quiet of the evening was a stark contrast to the chaos of the afternoon, and Maria felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had faced danger and survived, and she had discovered that she could trust someone completely. James placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did well today," he said quietly. "You were brave, quick-thinking, and strong. I'm glad you're here." Maria felt warmth spread through her chest. I couldn't have done it without you. I've learned a lot from you today, and I feel safer, stronger because of it." James gave a small, approving nod. "That's what it's about. We protect each other, learn from each other, and stay strong together. That's how you survive out here, and thrive." Maria smiled, a sense of hope filling her. The danger had reminded her of the harshness of life on the frontier, but it had also shown her the power of trust, courage, and companionship. She realized that she had found more than safety at the ranch. She had found someone she could rely on, someone who respected her strength and valued her as a partner. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Maria and James returned to the house. The ranch was quiet, peaceful once more, but both of them knew that the frontier could never be completely safe. And yet, they felt ready to face whatever challenges came next, together. Maria settled into her room, Shadow resting nearby in the stable, and thought about the events of the day. She had learned a great deal, not just about survival, but about trust, courage, and the importance of partnership. And as she drifted to sleep, she felt a quiet confidence that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would not face them alone. The ranch, the land, and James himself had become a part of her life, a new chapter she was just beginning to understand. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel hope, not just for survival, but for something more, something deeper, something lasting. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the land. Maria woke early, her mind alert. Even though the gang had retreated the day before, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. Danger had a way of returning in the frontier, and she had learned never to underestimate it. James was already outside, inspecting the fences again, his movements deliberate and steady. He noticed Maria emerging from the house and nodded. "Morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Maria nodded, though her thoughts were elsewhere. "As well as I could. Do you think they'll come back?" James studied the horizon carefully. "They might. That gang doesn't give up easily. But we'll be ready this time." After a quick breakfast, James suggested they patrol the land around the ranch. The morning was crisp, the wind carrying the scent of grass and dust. Maria rode alongside him on Shadow, alert to every sound, every movement. They passed the fences and the grazing cattle, scanning for signs of trouble. "See those tracks?" James said, pointing toward the dirt near a small grove. "They came back during the night. They're out there somewhere." Maria's heart raced, but she felt a strange sense of determination. "Then we won't let them catch us off guard again," she said firmly. James nodded. "Exactly." "We'll use what we've learned and the land itself to protect the ranch." They spent the morning setting up precautions, moving obstacles to block paths, hiding ropes and nets, and positioning themselves so that the land worked to their advantage. Maria followed James's lead, learning not just how to defend herself, but how to anticipate danger. Her confidence grew with every task, and she felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't experienced before. By afternoon, the sun was high, and the heat pressed down on the ranch. Maria and James paused under the shade of a tree to rest. The silence between them was comfortable, a rare moment of peace in a day filled with tension. "You've come a long way since yesterday," James said, glancing at her. "You're quicker, smarter, and braver than most people I know." Maria felt a warmth in her chest at his words. "I've had to survive on my own for a long time. I'm used to danger, but having someone like you with me makes a difference." James gave a small smile. "We'll face it together then. That's what matters." Suddenly, the sound of hooves on dirt reached their ears. Maria's pulse quickened. James motioned for her to stay low, and they crouched behind a ridge. From their vantage point, they could see the gang approaching, more determined and angrier than before. "Stay calm," James whispered. "We'll use the land to our advantage. Let them come." Maria nodded, gripping her rope tightly. She felt the tension in the air, the anticipation of the confrontation. This time, they were prepared. The gang reached the edge of the ridge, shouting and waving their weapons. James and Maria waited, silent and focused. As the first attacker stepped forward, James used a rope to trip him, sending him sprawling. Maria followed, using her agility to block another attacker and push him off balance. A fight was intense. Dust rose in clouds, and the sound of shouts and movement filled the air. Maria moved with precision, guided by James's instructions and her own instincts. She realized how much she had learned in such a short time, how to anticipate moves, how to use the environment, and how to work as a team. One of the gang tried to flank them, but Maria spotted him just in time. She raised her rope, catching his foot and sending him tumbling to the ground. James struck with a quick maneuver, disarming another attacker. Together they moved seamlessly, covering each other's backs. The gang was not used to being met with such skill and determination. They had expected easy prey, but instead found themselves outmatched. James's calm, strategic approach and Maria's quick thinking created a barrier they could not break. After a long struggle, the gang began to retreat, realizing they could not win. They disappeared over the ridge, leaving the ranch silent once again. Maria and James stood together, breathing heavily, adrenaline still pumping. "We did it," Maria said, her voice a mix of relief and pride. James nodded, his expression serious but calm. "Yes, but we need to stay vigilant. Out here, danger can return when you least expect it." Maria looked around the ranch, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. They had faced the threat together and protected the land. She realized that their partnership had grown stronger in the face of danger. Trust, courage, and teamwork had carried them through, and she felt a new kind of confidence, one that came from knowing she was not alone. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they returned to the house. Maria helped tend to the animals and repair minor damages, her movement steady despite the exhaustion. James worked alongside her, and the quiet rhythm of their tasks created a sense of normalcy after the chaos of the afternoon. Later, as night fell, they sat near the fire inside the house. The warmth and light created a safe bubble, a contrast to the tension of the day. Maria looked at James, feeling a mix of gratitude and admiration. "You've taught me a lot," she said softly. "Not just about surviving, but about trusting someone and working together. I feel stronger because of it." James met her gaze, a small, approving smile on his face. "You were strong all along. I just helped you see it." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of peace. The danger had reminded her of the harshness of the frontier, but it had also shown her the power of trust, courage, and partnership. She realized that she had found more than safety at the ranch. She had found someone she could rely on, someone who valued her as an equal, and someone she could face the future with. As they prepared for bed, Maria thought about the events of the day. She had faced fear, worked with James, and emerged victorious. The bond between them had grown stronger, built on respect, trust, and shared experience. Lying in her bed that night, Maria felt a sense of hope. She knew the frontier would always hold dangers, but she also knew she had the skills, the courage, and the partnership she needed to face them. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she was not alone, where she could be both strong and supported. James checked on Shadow before retiring for the night, then paused to look at the stars. The ranch was quiet, peaceful once more, but both he and Maria knew that life in the frontier required vigilance and strength. They had faced one challenge and won, but they were ready for whatever might come next, together. And as the moon rose over the hills, casting a soft silver light over the ranch, Maria understood that courage, trust, and partnership could overcome even the greatest threats. She had survived, she had learned, and she had found a connection that would guide her through whatever lay ahead. The morning after the gang had finally fled was quiet. The ranch lay bathed in soft sunlight, the hills and fields glowing with warmth. Maria stepped out onto the porch, breathing in the fresh air. For the first time in many days, she felt a sense of peace, though she remained alert. Life on the frontier was never completely safe, and the events of the past days had reminded her of that. James emerged from the barn, brushing dust from his hands. "Morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Maria smiled faintly. "I did. It's peaceful now, at least for the moment." James nodded. "We've done well protecting the ranch. But remember, vigilance is part of living out here." Maria followed him as he checked on the animals and repaired some small damages from the previous attacks. As they worked side by side, a quiet rhythm settled between them. The ranch had become more than a safe place. It was a home, and it was also the place where trust and understanding had grown between them. During a break, Maria sat under the shade of an oak tree, watching Shadow graze. She thought about everything that had happened, the attacks, the preparation, the teamwork, and the trust she had learned to place in James. She realized how much she had changed in just a few days. She felt stronger, more confident, and, most importantly, less alone. James approached and sat beside her, leaning back against the tree. "You've come a long way," he said. "Call, not just in skill, but in how you handle yourself. I'm proud of you." Maria turned to him, her eyes meeting his. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted softly. "You've taught me not only how to fight, but how to trust and work with someone else. I feel safer, stronger because of it." James gave a small smile, meeting her gaze steadily. "You were strong all along. I just helped you see it. And together, we make a good team. That's what counts out here." Maria felt a warmth in her chest at his words. She had always been self-reliant, always relied on her own skills to survive. But now she realized that having someone by her side did not weaken her. It strengthened her. Trust and partnership were as important as courage and skill. As the day passed, they worked around the ranch, tending to animals, checking fences, and preparing for any further trouble. Every task they did together strengthened their bond, building mutual respect and understanding. Maria admired James's calm confidence and careful planning, while he appreciated her courage, intelligence, and quick thinking. By late afternoon, the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. Maria and James stood on a small hill overlooking the ranch, taking in the quiet beauty of the land. The threat of the gang had passed, and for the first time the world felt calm and safe. Maria felt a sudden surge of emotion, a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and something deeper she had not expected. She turned to James, who was watching the horizon with a thoughtful expression. "James," she said, her voice steady but filled with feeling, What is it?" Maria took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "You saved my life, and you've shown me what it means to trust someone and feel safe. I don't want to be alone anymore. I want to be with someone I can trust completely. I want to be with you." James studied her for a moment. Then a smile slowly spread across his face. He had seen courage in her before, but now he saw honesty, vulnerability, and strength combined in a way that left no doubt. "Maria," he said softly, "I feel the same. I've seen your courage, your intelligence, your heart, and I want you by my side, not just for today, but for the future." Maria's heart raced. She felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. "Then," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "then I want to say it clearly. You're my husband now. Not just because of what happened, but because I trust you, and I choose you." James was taken aback for a moment, but the warmth in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. He took her hand gently, holding it with care. I accept," he said. "I choose you too, Maria. We'll face the future together, as partners, as equals, and as a family." Maria smiled, feeling a sense of completion, of belonging. She had survived attacks, learned to trust, and found a companion who respected and valued her. She felt a connection with James that went beyond safety. It was built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and a growing love that neither of them had expected so quickly, yet both had felt deeply. As the sun dipped below the hills, casting long shadows over the ranch, Maria and James walked together, hand in hand, toward the house. Shadow trotted alongside them, calm and content. The ranch was peaceful, the air filled with the sounds of animals and the soft rustling of leaves. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt truly at home. That evening, as they sat by the fire, they shared stories and laughter, recounting the events that had brought them together. Maria spoke of her travels and the lessons she had learned from her people. James shared tales of his life on the ranch and the struggles he had faced protecting the land. Each story revealed more about who they were, deepening the connection that had already begun to form. As the night grew darker, they stepped outside to look at the stars. The sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with constellations that had guided travelers for generations. Maria felt a sense of wonder and gratitude. She had faced danger, survived, and found someone she could trust completely. James stood close beside her, his hand brushing against hers. "We've been through a lot," he said softly, "but we've come through stronger. And now, we have a chance to build something lasting here." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of purpose and hope. Yes, we've faced danger together, and we've learned to trust and rely on each other. I want this life with you, with the land, with the ranch. I want to protect it, to grow with it, and to grow with you. James smiled, squeezing her hand gently. Then that's what we'll do. Together, the night was calm and quiet, filled with the soft sounds of the frontier. Maria felt a deep sense of peace and belonging. She knew that life on the frontier would always have its dangers, but now she also knew that with courage, trust, and partnership, they could face anything. As they returned to the house, Maria realized that her journey had brought her here not just to safety, but to a place where she was valued, respected, and loved. She had survived hardships, learned new skills, and found someone who saw her as an equal. She felt ready to embrace the future, no longer alone, but with a companion who had proven himself loyal and true. That night, as she lay in her bed and listened to the soft sounds of the ranch, Maria thought of the events that had brought her to this moment. She had been rescued from danger, had learned to trust and work with James, and had found a sense of belonging she had never known. She felt gratitude, hope, and love all at once, a mix of emotions that filled her heart with warmth. And as the stars shone brightly above, Maria knew that life would continue to bring challenges. But she no longer feared them. She had James by her side, she had her skills and courage, and she had a home in the ranch that now felt like her own. She had found strength in partnership, courage and trust, and love in a place she had once thought lonely and dangerous.